Gordon was young and all. He was working. He was a working pastor.
I was working manually at that time. I was working at Johnstone Fuel Oil Company. I was working there 4 or 5 days a week and trying to pastor the church too. And I think I stayed there a number of years after I was called here. But as the church grew, responsibilities became greater.
We got together and wanted him to go to school, give up his job.
I believe it was about 1965, so I came here full time. I think my salary then, the Lord had blessed him to raise the salary to $100 a week. And that was pretty big money for those times.
He started school at Florida Seminary, and he would ride to Lakeland, and we would give him a donation to go to school down there at Lakeland, Florida.
I resigned, from the job and sort of became a full-time pastor, devoted all my time here, and that made things 100% better because it gave me more time for study, prayer, and meeting with the auxiliaries and taking care of funerals and weddings and little counseling and things like that. I came here in 1958. I had a very fine family, enjoyable family, a happy family. The wife is Beatrice M. Gordon, but she was a McCall, Beatrice McCall Gordon, and 2 children, Benny and Josephine Cadet.
We were living here in St. Pete area. We had built a home over on 16th Street, 1660 30th Street South.
Benny grew up and finished high school at Gibbs. Then he went into the military. Then he came out and went to FAMU, Tallahassee. And there he graduated from FAMU and fell in love and got married. And he fell in love also with Tallahassee, the capital. And he been there ever since. Bought him a home there. Now he have 2 children of his own.
Yeah, I had no other choice but to follow my family. But that was around 1959. I believe I was about 6 years old when that occurred, when I went to Pleasant Grove with my father and my mother. And had a very good time.
Sister Gordon was a lovely first lady in helping and working wherever she can. She was very quiet, but whatever you asked her to do, she was willing to do it and help in any way she could.
When I joined there, Sister Gordon, she asked me would I join the #1 choir. I told her I couldn't sing. She said, "Oh, that's all right, Sister Evans." Say, a lot of them can't sing. Say, but we would have some more members in the choir if you just join the choir.
Sister Gordon, she went on to be with the Lord in 1988. And I've been sort of a widower ever since. Been keeping too busy to marry anybody else, so I guess it's too late now. I guess I might have to go on into heaven like I am,
It can be rather hard sometimes to be a preacher's daughter, and I've been that way all my life. And people expect more of you than they expect from their own self and their children. But I prefer to be just Kay, to let people know that I am human, that I can make mistakes. We all make mistakes, and I just want to kind of fit in. That's the way I want to be. I want to just fit in with the people and let them know that, I love people. I want to do all I can for people, but I'm human also, and I want people to kind of see that.
Lots of people tell me a lot of times once they meet me, they say, well, you know, I didn't know that you was a pastor's son-in-law, you know, because you don't act any different, you know. Well, I guess they expect me to act different because of that. But like I tell them all, you know, he's my father-in-law, plus he's my pastor.
So my daughter, she is fine. She also have 2 children. And even the 2 children grew up around Pleasant Grove.
Pebbles is a very likable young lady. She's been working in church ever since she was a little girl, too. She loves to go to church, too. Very different, always been the type of person, even if she didn't have anything to give, Christmas time, or birthdays, or Mother's Days, or Father's Days, Pebbles is the type of kid that will go in her room and make a gift and bring it out and say, happy birthday, happy Father's Day. She's always been like that.
She's always been like that.
She's in her teens now, so she's, you know, getting more into herself, but she's a good kid.
The Pharisees comes to Jesus and calls him teacher. Teacher. Now, if you know anything about the history between the Pharisees and Jesus, that they hated Jesus because of what he stood for. Not only was he heralding to be the Son of God, but he was taking influence from the religious people of that day, which were the Pharisees and Sadducees. So here, to hear them come and proclaim to him as teacher, when in the other Gospels and Synoptic Gospels, they called him Beelzebub, or chief of devils, imposter, and a crazy man. They're calling him and acknowledging him as teacher. Parenthetically, I want to say, no one goes through the trouble to butter up a biscuit unless they're getting ready to take a bite out of it. They were not patting Jesus on the back, but rather they were setting him up.
Born and raised in the church. I've been in Pleasant Grove ever since I could remember. My mother told me about maybe 2 weeks after I was born. I've been there ever since. I received a call at 5 years old, but I didn't pursue it until 13.
Gordon has always had a deep voice, even as a baby. And I'll never forget one time, I forgot how old he was at that time, but he was old enough to talk. And he said, give me my bottle over there. I said, boy, anybody can talk like that. You don't need a bottle.
Even when he was 5 years old, he used to, you know, love to try to preach and ask me to bring him down to the church and where he could preach over the microphone.
Gordon had always, you know, imitated his grandfather. When he sees his father preach, he tried to do the same thing and come home and have us just laughing, you know. I knew something was odd about Gordon after I had lost my second baby. I was so distraught about that baby, losing that baby, and I was just crying. I had almost forgot about him. And I was just crying and looking in books and trying to see what could have happened with this baby. Why did this baby die? And he came to me, he said, Mama, he had the Bible. He said, read this book. He said, and put those other books down. He said, no, don't you know all you got to do is ask the Lord for another baby? And he'll give you what you want. And from that day on, I say, something is odd with this. This child is different. And I say, he out of mouth of babes.
That's right.
You know, come praise. And I put those books down. I started, you know, attending to him.
I wanted to make sure this is something that God really wanted me to do, and that it was not being thrust upon me by people or by positions and things of that nature. And so I fought it as long as I could, but it was there. It was my calling, it was my destiny.
It was a wonderful thing. I rejoiced, and I just wanted to be sure that he had been anointed, for I believe in divine anointing. If a person is going to proclaim the word of the Lord, he should have received some orders from the Lord. And so I questioned him for a while and told him to go back and pray and think about it. because I wanted to be sure you weren't just trying to copy after me.
I know when he first came to me and said, "Mama, I want to preach," I say, "Well, Gordon, that's something that's a hard thing to do." I say, "You are only 12 years old."
I just maintained focus with what I had been called to do.
I say, "Well, that's a tight rope you got to walk, And I say, it's better if you could do something else if you could, because you're a teenager, it's not going to be that easy."
The reactions was that, what is a young man that small doing with a voice that large? That's what I hear really all the time. And then they could easily associate me with Pastor Gordon, who's my grandfather, because I guess of the uniqueness there. And so I find out that when I asked about my calling, required it of the Lord, and inquired about whether it was for me or not, that he instilled something that I could not only remember my grandfather by, but at the same time let me know that I had received the calling. And so I really thank God for that.
When you know you're doing well, when you know you're doing the best you can, don't get weary. You're singing your best, you're praying your best, you're preaching your best, you're living your best, and still you're misunderstood. But the Bible said, wait